Hello, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. You are about to begin the Soulful Anxiety Healing course, and I'm so excited for you, but I'll get into that in a moment. I want to just first start by introducing myself since we'll be talking face to face like this throughout the next couple of course modules. My name is Amanda Huggins. I am a holistic anxiety coach. I'm an intuitive healer, an author, a teacher. But honestly, like more important than anything else, I am very proud to say and to feel that I'm a happy human being. And that happiness, that spaciousness is really a testament to the work that I've chosen to offer in this world and the work that you'll be introduced to in this very course. So I kind of want to explain that a little bit before we dive in. The title of this course is Soulful Anxiety Healing. And that soul component is incredibly important to me. So when I was first on my anxiety management, anxiety healing journey, I found myself really frustrated because I would do the traditional self-help route. I went to therapy. Therapy was great. Read a lot of self-help books, and I felt like I had a ton of data, right? I knew a lot about myself, but I was still really struggling to make the connection, right? To implement change. And I started to get really frustrated. I was like, great, have all of this information. I know what I should be doing, I think, but nothing is measurably changing in how I feel. And I was at sort of this frustrating impasse where I was like, do I have to stay like this forever? And that frustration led me to start seeking other modalities. I have a couple of maybe 800 hours of yoga teacher training under my belt. I wound up taking quite a few clairvoyancy and energy healing apprenticeships. And I really went in the full opposite direction. So I started with really straightforward mental health and self-care, and then dove into deep soul nourishing spiritual care and rituals and practices that started to fill up a different part of me. And what I found in this journey is that healing, like true healing, comes from a blended approach. We take the scientific and the spiritual, and we bring those two components together, right? So it's so important when we're treating the whole, loving the whole, healing the whole, that we are implementing tactics that are science-backed. In addition to that type of mental and emotional care, we're bringing in a way to connect with ourselves, a way to create magic within ourselves, or really rediscover the magic that's in ourselves. That's one of my core beliefs: is all of us are magical. All of us are intuitive. All of us have so many spiritual, energetic, just even human gifts. And I find when we're able to marry the scientific and the spiritual, that is the way that we treat the whole. And that's really what this course is about. So my perspective when I'm working with clients or working digitally like this, right, face to face with you, my approach is mind, body, soul. So we start with the body. I know I say mind, body, soul, but it really would be body, soul, mind, I suppose, because we like to start with the body. This is where that traditional mental and emotional care comes in. You'll learn way more about that in the next module. So we're going to start looking at your anxiety journey by starting in the body. And I want to teach you how to genuinely understand the anxiety spin cycle, because knowledge is power. When you know what is chemically happening in your body, when you understand the chain of commands that happens once you get triggered, that is empowering. You can work with that information. So we always start there. Then, and this is where that spiritual, witchy, or energetic component comes in, we tune into the soul. So I'm of the firm belief that anxiety is not a bad thing. We'll talk way more about that in the upcoming modules. But anxiety, for right now, what I'll say is that anxiety is an activation. It's here biologically as a function to keep you safe. But when we're talking about anxiety and how it shows up in the more psychosocial aspect, right? When we're ruminating on thoughts, or we're doubting or questioning ourselves, that anxiety is creating contrast. right? It's showing us what we don't want to feel. And one thing can't exist without the equal and opposite. So if we know how we don't want to feel, that means that a part of us, not just believes, knows we can feel better. And that is the activation that I care about, is helping individuals just like you figure out, okay, what is my anxiety actually activating within me? And how do I work with that information? So it's so important that as we're moving through these modules together, you keep in mind that anxiety is not the enemy. I would nudge you even to consider it a friend. And if that feels a little bit too big right now, don't worry. We will get to that. I believe in module two. Okay. When we're able to befriend, we hope, anxiety, what winds up happening is we're befriending the parts of ourselves that we've kept in the shadow. And you can't ever clean something up, heal something, deal with something if it's kept in a place where you're choosing not to look at it or where you can't see it. So this soul component, the spiritual, this energetic piece of the work is really about uncovering and working with the shadow. An old friend once gave me a really wonderful analogy that I love to share with people. So imagine that you are alone in a cave. We're not going to wonder about how you got into that cave, okay? But let's just say you find yourself alone in a cave. It's storming outside, and all you have is one taper candle, one really, really long candle, okay? And that candle is lit. It's not going to last forever, but you have it lit. So you're hovering over this candle in your cave, and you hear a noise behind you, but it's a very dark cave. So you quickly look over your shoulder. And in that quick glance, what you see is the light from this candle is not just casting your shadow, but you see another enormous, monstrous, really scary looking shadow next to you. The shadow has sharp teeth. It looks like it might be spiky or have fangs. And again, it's just a quick glance, but you're like, oh my God, I don't want to look at it. So you turn back towards your candle. But as you do this, you're cowering in fear. And that taper candle is starting to wane. It's starting to go away, right? It's burning off. And so you're sitting in this fear, you're holding this candle, and the light goes out. And now you're just in the dark with this terrifying monster behind you. This is, if we're bringing this back into real life for a moment, this is when we go into freeze, or we go into a state of emotional paralysis. We're like, I don't know what to do. But here's the thing. If you spend a couple of extra seconds, maybe even a few minutes, fully looking at that shadow, seeing not just the shadow, but what's casting it, you might have found that it wasn't a scary monster casting that shadow behind you. It was just a tiny little lizard. And the light might have your candlelight might have distorted the shadow. Right? So what is the message here? When we keep something in the shadow, it becomes bigger. We feel like it's scarier. We feel like it's something that might be too big for us to deal with. And so when we push, avoid, ignore, not only can we not work with it and reduce or release the fear, that fear grows, that anxiety grows. And so what I want for you metaphorically with this example, but very, very literally in your life, in your body, is to look over your shoulder, look at the candle, realize what is casting that scary shadow, and then bring it into the light. Make a friend with it. Have that little lizard, the little metaphorical lizard, sit on your knee, sit on your lap, you know? So we're going to get into that. That's sort of the crux of the overall format. We'll start with the body, tune into the soul, and then we work with the mind. And this is also, I think, an important piece to share with you before we dive in. So another point of frustration or challenge in my own anxiety healing journey was that I was kind of trying tools and tips, and it felt like I was doing it out of order, right? So I would read all of this wonderful literature on mantras when we go into the more spiritual, esoteric space, or I would read about neural reprogramming if we want to go more sciencey, more traditional therapy. And I was like, okay, so train your mind, train your thoughts, right? But it didn't work. I really struggled to make it work. And the reason that thinking I am safe, I am not anxious, thinking these positive thoughts didn't quite work is because I still had that shadow to deal with. You cannot think over a shadow. You have to find it, work with it, commit to healing it. Sometimes that's a lifelong journey, and that's okay. And we'll talk about that. But it's once you embrace that shadow and understand really what you are working with, and then bring in these really wonderful and evidence-based practices like mantra work, like neural reprogramming, that is where the magic happens, because you're doing all of the things in a way that feels easeful. And I think that's where I'd like to wrap up this little intro is I understand so deeply how challenging and frustrating it is to live with anxiety. And perhaps yours is a lifelong journey. Maybe there's just something coming up in your life right now. I so understand. I feel you. And I just love you so much, And anxiety has this really funny way of making everything urgent, feeling like we need to fix everything in the now. And what I want to just share with you or offer to you is a reminder that this process is meant to be easeful, right? That there is no rush. You can go at your own pace. This course specifically, certainly go at your own pace. But I really mean this in the larger spectrum or the larger picture of your life is you have your whole life. There will be amazing moments and there will be challenging moments. What I would like to do and what I want to offer you in this course is to begin equipping you with the tools and the skill set to continue to work with your anxiety. Not just now, but 50 years in the future when your great grandkids or grandkids trigger you. You know what I mean? One of the key phrases that I always come back to when we're talking about a soulful anxiety healing journey is intensity and duration. So my intention, at least, is to help you reduce the intensity, duration, and we'll even throw in frequency of the things that ping or trigger your anxiety, okay? And as you move through this course, you will find tools that work. I also want to encourage you to make them your own. I'm a teacher. I am not a dictator. And I think it is the best. It's one of the best parts of teaching when you see a student or a client take on the information and make it their own. So I really want to empower you to do that before we officially get started. Okay, I believe that's it. Last quick reminders, if you're still here, things to have or to keep in mind. Be comfy. I'm always a fan of comfy. I'm like team soft pants all the time. So get nice and comfy. I certainly suggest you have a journal around you. If you are more of a computer person, it's okay if you want to take notes on your computer, if that works better for you. But there are a couple of exercises that certainly serve to be more powerful when you're writing. And then, of course, we will be moving a lot of energy, right? So there'll be different meditation and energy work adjacent components to this course. So important that you're hydrating, because when we're doing anything slightly out of the body, we can get a little bit dehydrated. So get comfy, be fed, be hydrated, and I will see you in the first module.